Hey there, everybody. Welcome to a review of The Bachelorette, one of the most romantic episodes of the season, dare I say it.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot of really strong connections. The guys were very much getting into their feelings and digging a lot deeper. This was a really good episode.
If you guys enjoy our discussion here of The Bachelorette, we're here for all things Bachelor Nation every Monday, and we have a marathon of it coming in between Bachelor in Paradise, Michelle Young season. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out.
Yeah, and follow us over on Instagram, which is Matt and Jess TV, where you can just learn a little bit more about us. And I'm sure you're going to learn a little bit more about us in this video too, because there was some personal stuff that they talked about tonight on the different dates, and some of it relates to me.
This is going to be, it was a very personal episode of The Bachelorette. Maybe it's a very personal discussion we're going to have here.
Yeah.
But getting into the hunter of it all here, I want to start with a question.
We'll start with the hunter of it all.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Okay, so this may be slightly unpopular, but go with me here for a moment, everyone. So, put different music behind Hunter when he's talking. Change Hunter's tone. Some of the things that he said, I want to be here for Katie. I want to have as much time with Katie as possible. Why do I care about bro code? He's not really wrong with a lot of that. It's just the way he goes about it is very toolboxy.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get kind of complicated because he's not wrong in what he's saying. However, with that whole group date, Katie really opened a bad door with that. The minute that Hunter decided that he was going to turn this into full contact, tackling people down, that should have been the minute that she was kind of like, okay, you're at a 10, let's take it to a 0 and not do that, okay? There's an ambulance standing by and I don't want anyone to be in it. But instead, he tackled that person. He went up, was like, that was for you, kind of thing. And she was like, good tackle. I'm like, oh no, this has opened it up, this huge can of worms. And it did. Everybody started tackling everybody. What happens? Injury. Then she's all of a sudden like, oh, I don't want anyone to get hurt. No, well, okay, you opened that door because that was the moment that you could have said, dial it back, everybody, and you didn't. So that's my feeling on sort of Katie's role in that, because then later you have this confessional with Hunter where he's saying, basically, I got the go-ahead. I was aggressive. I got the pat on the back. I ended up getting the group date rose.
Yep.
Like, what? And then he continued it on later on into the party where he already has a rose. He's kind of like, well, I already know I'm rewarded for this, so let's keep on getting rewarded.
Yeah, he got validated for the behavior that he showed, and I think when that happens, you're only going to continue along.
Of course.
And obviously, Hunter, he's enough of a man to sort of realize at some point, maybe I should dial it back, like he should have been more self-aware as to how he was coming across, but if he is there for Katie, we haven't heard Hunter being like, oh, I want to be the next Bachelor. I'm going to take him at his word that he is there for Katie, and Katie's giving him an impression of this is kind of what I want from you. He's probably leaving a little bit of logic at the door. I hope that he doesn't go around tackling people in his day-to-day life and being like, after.
That's the thing about it is I don't think that he is really like this all the time. I mean, we saw he's got kids, he's got these beautiful pictures where he's this loving dad, and he hasn't been like this all season. And then as soon as he tests the water, he gets the pat on the back, and now he's like this.
I gotta go back.
Also, I'm sure, put on the conspiracy tinfoil hat here, that producers are in the back being like, see, she validated, she likes what you're doing, you gotta keep that up. That's what's happening.
1,000,000,000%. It's like, okay, producers, they're smart enough to anticipate every possible outcome in every single scenario, and it brings me back to the physical part of this date, because this is where I will get personal as someone who broke his clavicle doing a physical activity on Beauty and the Geek. You sit here, and my heart goes out to Michael in this situation, because you think you're just on this show to have a good time. You're probably sort of peer pressured into doing this. Maybe Michael didn't even want to put on that whatever that outfit was and go on out there. But if he didn't wear the unitard, he would be made fun of. If he didn't participate, he would look like a quitter. And he probably knew the whole time, this isn't a great idea. Like, I was playing flag football with people where if one of our teams lost, one person would be eliminated on the spot. We didn't want to let that person down, so of course we're going out there and being crazy and then falling over ourselves and hurting ourselves.
Yeah, the idea that they were going to have this activity that's basketball meets rugby, I mean, you have people who are not trained athletes doing this, and they are in a competition to stay on a TV show and to stay with Katie, and it's all just... I hate these dates so much. I mean, if you've been watching our channel a long time, I know I complain about this a lot, and I will continue to complain about this until the end of time with this show because somebody always gets hurt, and it's always really uncomfortable to watch.
I'm going to put on a very sad tinfoil hat here for a moment because this is not... I don't feel good about what I'm about to say, but... This is not, I don't know any spoilers. This is not a spoiler, but
no, we don't know.
When we saw that sort of preview at the end of this, where you see Michael breaking down and talking about his kids, and then you see Katie sort of, the way she talks at one point suggests that someone leaves the show, and that the person who could have been her person left. I'm really worried that Michael's going to leave before the end of this season.
I agree, especially after that video chat where his son is kind of like, you don't want to be here with me. I was just like, oh, he's leaving.
Yeah.
And it really sucks because Michael, he's a treasure.
Yeah. Your kid says that on the phone. You're not. I can't see a way that you're staying.
No. And I mean, the whole situation seems like he is ready to move forward from losing his wife, but it also seems like he's still in the grieving process, and he's in that kind of like interesting in-between stage of I've fully let go and I am fully, ready to move forward, and I haven't entirely let go yet. Because even in some of the ways, and I am not widowed, so I don't know if there's any sort of etiquette or any way that this is, or is this just the way that Michael is speaking, that he was still referring to Laura, I think is her name, as his wife, which watching it from an outsider, watching say, oh, it's my wife's birthday and I'm on a date with you, talking to you about and saying my wife, I was just like, it feels almost like he hasn't completely ready to move on, but he wants to be there instead of saying, hey, it's Laura's birthday today. Oh, okay, yeah, we all know who she is and we know how important she is. That felt a little bit different when he was like, oh, Katie, I know we're on a date, but it's my wife's birthday. I was like, oh, okay.
I did catch that too. I do think that there's something there. I think it may be, and I am not a widower, so I don't know this experience at all, but I do wonder, if it's a situation where maybe you think every part of you is ready and you go on the show thinking you're ready, but then something comes up when you start to have feelings for Katie maybe that you haven't had since you lost someone, and then you realize, oh no, I'm actually not ready. And
that's okay. Yeah. Like, if he is in that situation and that's what happens and he's not ready to move forward, we're here for you, Michael. Yeah. We understand. It is okay. I think it's interesting that he decided to move forward from this on such a huge, strange platform, because going on TV to find love is strange already. Then you add on top of it this tremendous loss, and then you add on top of it that your kid is at home and you're away, where, if this was just a regular dating situation for him, he'd be going home to his kid at night. So that part of it would be, solid. You're moving forward, but you still see your kid every day, who's probably a rock for him.
I think this whole experience has been tough on him, and he's tried. This is why, I love this guy. He seems to be so encouraging to everyone else, and he didn't even really open up about his own pain to some of the guys until this episode tonight.
No, and seeing the reaction, seeing Greg like just a puddle on the floor about this. I mean, this was really serious.
There was a lot of bromance and like bro emotion in this episode too. Because wasn't early on there was I think it was Greg and Connor B, and they were like hugging each other or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really intense experience, and I think we all kind of forget that because we're here for the entertainment of it, you know, the romance of it, all that type of stuff. But this is a really intense experience, and that's why they end up getting to a point where it's like, oh, they've only been filming for, say, a month and a half or 2 months or whatever, and people getting engaged at the end of this after such a short amount of time. But these guys are together all the time, and there's nothing else to do. They're not there on their phones or, you know, reading books or being on the internet. They are only together, and their only focus is Katie.
This is why we see this all the time of like, oh, here's like these 5 Bachelor contestants or these 5 Bachelorette dudes that are all going to like, I don't know, Bermuda or something together, and everybody's like, oh, they're all just fame chasing. It's like, no, they probably actually got to be closer friends in this like month they were together than people they've known in their real lives for years because they don't have phones or any distractions.
All right, let's talk about Andrew S. because I really, really like him. I talked about him last week, how much I liked him and how he is too level-headed for this show. He really is. And tonight he had some really tough conversations, but conversations that like I do not remember ever actually really hearing in depth like this on this show or any show. And one of the things that they talked about, or that he talked about, was interracial dating and interracial having kids and getting married and what that's like for, you know, maybe having a mixed kid. And for those of you who don't know, I am a mixed kid. My dad is white. My mom is a person of color. She is Guyanese, Caribbean heritage, and she is much darker than me, but I look like my dad. So when he was talking about his ex who was white and that she was concerned about how their mixed child might have problems growing up, and he was like, oh, you know, I was upset about that. And I understand where he's coming from. But on the other side, as a mixed kid growing up, I also understand maybe where his ex was coming from a little bit. You know, there are difficulties. And one of the things that she was concerned about was that there might be people that would look at her kid and be like, whose kid is this? That happened to me when I used to go to school. My mom would come and pick me up. People would be like, you know, whose kid is this? It's not yours. And she'd be like, no, yeah, she is. And then, you know, take me home, and that's fine. But it was always very, like, strange. People would always ask me, are you adopted? Like, that kind of stuff where, you know, you get past it. And it's not like it's gonna stop your life or anything like that. But it is something to think about, and that's why I am glad that he asked those questions and brought it up. It's a discussion that people don't always have because you're in love and you don't think about it. You just kind of go forward, and whatever happens, and that's okay. But there's also this side.
I wish Andrew was here because there's a lot of things I would be really curious to know from him. Like, for example, did, you know, these past several seasons of the franchise, whether it be, you know, Tayshia's season or Matt's season, where we got to see more diversity as the leads, and it felt like we were at least starting to get some more representation. I wonder if these sort of things felt to make him more comfortable to have these conversations, or, you know, The Bachelor and The Bachelorette as a franchise, we already know that they're trying to clean up a lot of their problems. I don't think we can say they're fully there yet, but maybe he was in a position where they actually encouraged him to go through and have this talk on camera, no matter how it came about. I really appreciated it too. I appreciated getting, you know, this insight from him because I've heard you talk about it before, and I haven't heard it spoken much on this show at all over the years. And
no, they don't really on TV talk a lot about people who have a mixed background and sort of what are some of the struggles with that, of sort of, I don't fit in here, I don't fit in here, I don't fit in anywhere kind of thing, and that can be hard on a kid.
I really like how Andrew, spoke how he felt. I like how Katie responded. I think they both handled that really, really well. And what I loved about this date so much is that it looked different than a lot of other dates. It was all at night. I like that there was like that silliness early on where we had, what was it, like the dolphin? Was that the dolphin?
Yeah.
Whatever that dance move was.
I just thought the date in general, it was one of my favorite dates because there was silly components to it. There was get to know you components to it. And then there was serious components at the end of where they, start to get to know each other much deeper. There was everything in there. Like, I really like Andrew for her so much, but Blake is gonna win the show, so that's where we are. Oh, come on, listen, after that date, like, first she's like brings him in late, then she goes in as like, hey everybody, I'm bringing in Blake, and I know it's pissing you all off, but sorry, not sorry. Now I'm gonna give him the first one-on-one right out of the gate. I was like, oh, talk about putting Blake in a tougher position, but she's kind of like, if it doesn't work out, then I send him home right away. But if it does work out, harder on Blake. So, it doesn't matter. But that date was just fire across the board. Like, I do not know how they do not end up together.
I honestly, I have all these really vivid memories of the Andrew S. date, of them, doing the fun little stuff. And I have no recollection of anything with this date other than them, like, rolling around in the hay at one point and having, like, some sort of pseudo-serious conversation. It's like
And there was some fun in there, too, with the talking about the horses. And he brought up that he does go to Africa for a month every single year, which is, a big ask in relationships to be like, hey, I'll see you in a month. But she was receptive to it. And he was like, this is even better because people not always receptive of going away for such a long time.
I don't have any issue with Blake. Like, there's obviously concerns. This is his third Bachelorette he has been pursuing.
It's true, but I didn't see, to be fair, he didn't really have that much time with either of the other Bachelorettes. Yeah. But the chemistry here is, like, at a 10 out of 10. Like, this is... It's not the person that I wanted to see her with. I liked Trey for a while, but I'm all in on Andrew. I really like him so much, but she's going to end up with Blake. Based not only on this date, but also looking at the previews where it's like, I thought Greg was someone that was going to be a good match, but he was getting real moody in this episode. And then the preview for the rest of the season, he's moody. Like, that's only going to last so long before she's kind of like, this is a drag.
Yeah, I'm still kind of, and I'm probably very wrong with this. Like, I'm not fully off the Greg train yet, but I'm like, I have one foot on it. I'm kind of like grabbing the rail as I'm starting to get close to falling off. It's possible they're just trying to... I'm thinking some like reverse psychology here, that they're trying to make me doubt Greg, but...
Of course, the promos love to trick us. They're never accurate.
Hence, they had an ambulance in this episode leading up to it. They made it seem like Michael was almost dead or something, and like he was fine after, I don't know, like 5 minutes. But yeah, it seems like Greg has a little bit of the... I got the first one-on-one date-itis where he starts to feel like he's special and then slowly just like descends into inner chaos and turmoil.
Yes, and I think we've seen that happen before on this show where you get a one-on-one early and you have this really heavy connection and then you don't really get to spend that kind of time with the lead again till like way later, and you're watching person after person after person. You're not getting sort of that validation anymore, and this show is a lot harder than it looks.
I feel like I want to introduce an award here of Most Improved Contestant. And the Most Improved Contestant in this episode is Box King James, who for the first time in 3 weeks actually gets airtime. And I would hate this so much if I was in the shoes of the guy having the conversation with Katie. But him deciding, okay, I'm going to go up and interrupt. And then instead of like going away, I'm just gonna like hang out 6 feet behind them in this interesting turtleneck that I've picked out for myself.
Good for you, James. Hunter already had a rose. And I understand that there's sort of that etiquette that people are like, you're already safe. Like, there's obviously a certain amount of guys she's gonna give roses to, and you already have yours. But at the same time, I kind of get where Hunter is coming from too. Yeah, he got the rose, he got on a group date, that's cool, things are moving ahead. But you don't want to just rest on your laurels. Also, he got that pat on the back.
Yes.
Be aggressive. Okay, I'm going to set up this thing then. I just don't care. I'm here for Katie.
Yeah, I get a certain degree of where, I almost called him Blake, where Hunter is coming from. I understand.
Blake, the winner of the show.
Okay, all right. Well, but Hunter, I still would not be mad if you go next week. I'm kind of tired of you at this point, too.
You can take Aaron with you when you go, too. The only little bit of time we had of him tonight was basically like picking another guy to be like, oh, now I'm having a problem with Hunter. Hunter has to go. I was just like, oh, God. Can somebody just get rid of Aaron, please?
Okay, well, this one pains me to say it because when he's in a good mood, I love him. But Trey... you gotta stop with I don't know if I'm gonna make it or not. I had like 10 minutes of it at the end of this episode. I was just like, okay, can we just get the final rose already for the evening so I don't have to listen to Trey being very desperate about his fate anymore.
My other favorite moment was seeing the other Michael, the Michael that has never been with anyone, say, I'd like to get to first base and then get a kiss. That was so good. He's such an interesting guy. I really like him. And I actually really like him for Katie. I think there's something really nice there.
I will say this, though. Before he said that, he's like, I like to communicate in all ways related to sports. And I feel like it worked out for Katie, but I think like 80% of anyone who hears that is like, no, you relate to it using the ways that normal people relate to it.
No, he's great.
After I get to first base, would you like to go hit a 3-pointer?
Oh, I don't even know where that's going.
I don't know where that's going either. But all right, we will conclude this before these analogies get worse. But thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you thought about this episode. We're going to dolphin dance our way out of here. We'll see you here next time.